Mary and Ken, thank you for having us into your home today. Can you start by just telling us a little bit about who Mary and Ken are?
Should I start, honey?
Go ahead.
Well, I'm a winemaker, and I've been a winemaker for now almost 42 years. And I came to Sonoma County, which is where we are right now, in 1977. So that's been a long time ago. And I moved to Forestville at that. Well, actually, I was out here in Sebastopol in the beginning and then moved into Forestville. So I've been a resident here for what seems like a long time now.
And then Mary and I met on a float trip on the Colorado River in 1997, and were married in early 1998, and I moved here to be a part of the winery as well as a state farm agent. I also had an agency in Guernewood Park.
How did you feel when Palm Drive closed?
Well, personally, I was very upset that it actually got to that point because I couldn't understand how our hospital is closing. I have been using Palm Drive for, I'm trying to think, more than 23 years. I lived in Forestville for a very long time, and I never even went to another hospital. When I had an emergency with my kids, one time we ran over a crack in the sidewalk with Warren's stroller and he fell on his forehead. I took him immediately to Palm Drive and I called Dr. Pitson on the way. Matt had surgery at Palm Drive by Dr. Campbell. We had, my son Ben broke his arm 3 times. We always went to either Dr. Pitson's office or right next door to the hospital. Whatever has happened to me over the years, I've always just gone straight there. So it was hard for me to understand how I would go someplace else or take my family someplace else because that's just where we always went.
When the effort began to open a new hospital in Sebastopol, how did that make you feel?
Well, I feel very strongly about the fact that where the hospital is located is incredibly important, not only to our community of Sebastopol, but I think going more and more towards the coast, that it becomes absolutely essential. You have an incredible community in Bodega, especially people that are doing a very, very dangerous job of fishing and whatever's involved with that. And this is the nearest hospital. And if something happens to someone in Bodega Bay, they're not going to make it if they have to go all the way in to Santa Rosa. This is what's so important to me about being a part of this, is getting open a hospital that will service the coastal area.
Well, we were already involved with the hospital because we had been donors to the foundation supporting the hospital. We'd done already one 5-year pledge before there was the new problem. So we were already involved. I would talk to Dr. Pitson about what was happening with the hospital, what's happening to medicine in general. So there wasn't a time where we really, haven't been involved in the last at least 6 or more years.
Even closer to home, you had an incident that really brought the necessity of having a hospital close by.
Well, we were at a party in South Sebastopol, and Ken started having some strange symptoms that I really wasn't sure about. And again, my thought was not where to go, but I called Dr. Pitson, who was out of town, and started telling him about the symptoms when we were sitting at the CVS pharmacy, and I was getting Ken some Zantac because he thought he was just having a stomach problem, which is common with heart issues. I sat there in the parking lot. I said, I'm going to get you a bottle of water. I'm going to get you some Zantac. And within a couple of minutes, because Zantac acts quickly, if you're not feeling better, we're going across the street, basically, to Palm Drive. And during that time I had spoken to Dr. Pitson, so he had already called the hospital. He's in LA, but he's already called the hospital. Dr. Powers was on call, thank goodness, and he's the one who received us and got Ken into a stable condition. So once again, I'm not thinking, oh, let's drive to Memorial or to Sutter or to Petaluma or someplace. I'm thinking, I'm going to my home hospital.
And then I had an EKG here at the hospital administered by Dr. Powers, and they indicated that I was having some form of a heart issue, and was transferred from Palm Drive to the other hospital almost immediately, and it was important that that took place. Otherwise, the outcome might not have been as good as it was.
How have you chosen to get involved?
Well, we were already donors before, and I saw that as a future opportunity, but I was very concerned about the stability of the future hospital. You know, I'm friends with Dan Smith, who's of course been a huge benefactor of the hospital, and we started talking with him about what was going to happen and how a hospital with stability would be created going forward. And he'd known me a long time, and so he started asking me whether I would consider being on the board, the oversight board that would help make good business decisions for the hospital and ensure that we would have a good, solid community hospital going forward. And as part of that, as Dan put it, everyone needs to have skin in the game. Well, I mean, I wouldn't have not had skin in the game. I would have not donated because, as we know, these kinds of community resources don't happen on their own. It takes community support. And I feel as a business person in our community, it's my duty to be involved in some kind of important community support project. I have been over the years. I was on the board of North Bay Regional Center, managing, $40 million budget 15 years ago. I was involved with respite here when that existed. I was on the board there, so I feel like it's our duty to be involved with volunteerism and also with deciding who or what entity we want to support with our financial resources.
What would your message to the community be right now?
Well, what jumps to my mind is donate, because I'm very concerned that, as a community, there's a small group, and I'm not saying I've been a big donor. I've donated what I feel I can afford, but some people have been large donors. But this is a big project, and I feel that when people see that the hospital is opening, they think all the work is done, when actually the work is just beginning. We need big pieces of equipment. We want to be a destination hospital that attracts people for our stroke care, or all of our different programs that have been outlined. And we're still missing some very big pieces of equipment. So I feel like I don't want people to become complacent and not realize that ongoing healthy hospital in our area is going to require community support. If you're aware of other community hospitals, small hospitals, like the Healdsburg Hospital, they raise in the region of $8 million a year. This is something that's ongoing. It's not going to stop on April 27th when the hospital opens. So our donation is a 5-year commitment. I hope that I can expand that commitment over time, and I hope that people realize we need donations, we need support, and that's never going to go away.
Any last thoughts that you'd like to share?
Yes, I have one. I was born and raised in Southern California and in Los Angeles County, and I know that in that area, most of the hospitals, the large hospitals, are supported by the county. I asked the question when we first started becoming involved with the Palm Drive issue many years ago. We were invited to a seminar, and I asked a very specific question: will this hospital remain open without a tax levy? And the CEO at the time was very honest and very forthcoming and told me, no. He says, I believe that it would be very, very lucky for us not to need a levy. I see that we're probably always going to need a levy here. Most other communities, large communities with large hospitals, have county support. Either that or they're part of a large chain of hospitals that can support that hospital. Palm Drive isn't in that ballpark. I mean, I don't see that there's going to be any grand entry of an entity that will pay for everything at the hospital. It just isn't going to happen. So the community has to support this hospital, and it has to come from each and every one of us in the community that can and should be able to help the hospital.